Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a mystery blanketed in white. You'll drift through thick curtains of fog where railroads vanish, the sky forgets its shape, and clocks whisper strange secrets. You'll explore a day that made no sense. To science, unsettled entire towns and left behind stories no one's quite sure were real. And don't worry, you probably won't survive this. Unless you like confusing meteorology and time-traveling church bells. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The day the horizon vanished. You wake to the soft clink of glass in the cupboard as a freight train hums somewhere beyond your window, the Midwest sun trying to burn through the dew on your windowsill. It's March 24th, 1913, and everything smells like damp earth and chimney soot. You stretch, yawn, step outside, but this time, something's off. The horizon is gone, not faded, not distant, gone. In its place, a wall of pale, colorless fog looms just beyond the neighbor's fence. You squint. The air smells of water and metal like someone's ironed the sky. It's not the normal morning mist you're used to, the kind that melts before breakfast. This is dense, featureless, and unmoving. It hovers low, heavy like a wool blanket held inches from your face. You call out. No reply. Your voice feels swallowed. The dog doesn't bark. The birds, silent. Just the faint sound of your own footsteps on dirt, muffled like the ground's trying to hush you. By 7 a.m., the fog has crept in completely. Everything's gone grey. You look back toward the porch, but can barely make out the outline of your house. Only the warm glow from the oil lamp in the kitchen gives you a direction, your own lighthouse in this sudden sea. They say it began in Nebraska before rolling eastward like a tide no one saw coming. It moved in silence, ignoring weather patterns, forecasts and expectations. Towns vanished one by one, first the streets, then the windows, then people. No rain, no wind, just fog. A mile away, the local postmaster fumbles to unlock his front gate and promptly loses sight of his own hands. A telegraph operator at the station writes, "Cannot see instrument keys, typing blind, stop, advise if others same, stop." That note will be pinned to a dozen newspaper clippings in the years to come. You step farther into the field. The ground's still beneath you. Solid. Familiar. But nothing looks familiar. A wooden fence you've known since childhood feels foreign. Without the road behind it, you try to orient by memory alone, but fog distorts everything, even sound. A horse neighs, but it seems to come from both left and right. Someone coughs nearby or perhaps far off. You can't tell. The fog plays tricks. Historians today debate whether this was truly a meteorological event or something stranger. They argue about pressure systems and airborne particulates. Some even whisper about volcanic aftereffects from distant eruptions. But none of them can explain why people in Ohio later claimed they saw stars in the middle of the day, or why compasses began to drift without correction. A fun fact you probably didn't learn in school: on that day, several local barbershops simply refused to open, not because of the fog itself, but because none of the mirrors reflected properly. One man reportedly saw his reflection step a second too late. That might have been just a joke in the Cincinnati Enquirer, or not. By 10 a.m., newspapers begin referring to it as the Great Easter Fog. But nothing about it feels holy. In fact, there's something eerily secular about how thoroughly it erases the landscape. Landmarks are gone, mailboxes, street signs, even the church steeple, normally tall enough to guide a lost traveler, disappears without ceremony. You could be in your town or on the moon. You hold your breath. The fog doesn't move. It doesn't even seem to swirl like mist should. You wave your hand. It doesn't part. And then you notice something else. The horizon hasn't just vanished. The sky is missing too. Look up. No clouds, no breaks. Just more fog. A ceiling made of nothing, like standing inside a blank page. If you weren't already disoriented, now you start to feel edited, like a character removed from a scene in a storybook, left in the margin. Someone, maybe a neighbor, maybe someone from a nearby street, wanders past, carrying a chicken under their arm. Neither of them seems particularly bothered. The chicken doesn't even cluck. You wave, they don't wave back. Perhaps they didn't see you. Or perhaps you're the one who didn't wave, and just when you think it can't get weirder, you pass the old corn silo and see it floating. No, not really, but the fog is so thick below the base that it looks suspended in air, like some stone spaceship. It's silly. You laugh, and it echoes. Once, then silence. Historians will later write that many who experienced the fog reported dreamlike disassociation, a clinical term for the feeling you're having now, that this isn't your town, that this isn't your time. But here's the part they never figured out. Animals didn't flee, cats didn't hide, horses didn't bolt. They stood still, placid, calm, as if waiting for something. Some people say the animals were waiting for the fog to tell them where to go. Maybe it's telling you too, but its language is silence. You keep walking, careful not to stray too far, and for a moment you think you see a figure ahead, someone standing perfectly still. You call out, no reply. You approach, no one's there. Only a coat hanging on a scarecrow pole. You could have sworn maybe it's time to go back home. You hope you remember the way. The compass in your coat pocket spins once, then stops. North? South? Does it matter now? You take a deep breath. It smells like rain, old iron, and something sweet. Bread, wood smoke? Or is your mind playing tricks again? The fog doesn't care, and neither, apparently, does time. You step forward into the white, just one more step, and the world continues, blurred, breathless, and strangely soft. Trains, without tracks, men without shadows. You follow the faint crunch of gravel underfoot, reaching what you think is the rail crossing, the one that usually rattles with morning traffic and whistles echoing down the tracks. But now, nothing. Not a single sound except the fog brushing softly against your coat. Then, from nowhere, the shriek of a distant train whistle, muffled, wrong, like someone imitating the sound from underwater. You step closer to where the track should be, careful to listen for vibration or movement. But there's no tremor in the earth, no rhythmic thrum in the soles of your boots, just cold, silent gravel. Eventually you find the rail by touch, fingers, running along the steel until it disappears into the void on either side. It might as well be a relic from another century. You sit on the edge, watching the emptiness in front of you and wonder, if a train does come, how will it know which way is forward? You're not alone in that thought. Just a few miles east at a small station near Dayton, an engineer named Harold G. Linney scrawls in his logbook, "Departed 6:12 a.m. into blankness. Headlight shows nothing. Sound returns delayed. God help us if the switches aren't where we remember." His train never derailed, but neither he nor his crew remember arriving at their destination. One man said he fell asleep and dreamed of tracks made of glass. Another claimed he saw a second train matching theirs perfectly, running parallel with no sound, no steam, no crew. Historians today cite disrupted circadian rhythms and suggest mass hallucination, a product of sensory deprivation. But some reports from telegraph stations describe trains heard but never seen, passing through towns whose signals were still down. One even logged phantom rail spikes driven into the ground overnight, nowhere near a construction zone. The obscurity wasn't just visual. It was auditory. Voices wouldn't carry. A man shouting from 10 feet away would sound like he was behind a closed door. A harmonica played near a fog-shrouded fire pit came across like a bird call. And if you tried to follow the sound, it would vanish as you moved closer. Light itself became untrustworthy. The conductor of a supply train west of Indianapolis swore that lanterns held before him disappeared once they passed arm's length. No glow, no reflection, just sudden absence. One porter claimed his own shadow stopped following him sometime before noon. He turned, crouched, stood still, nothing. The torch in his hand cast a circle of light, but no silhouette. He wrote his mother about it. That letter still exists. It ends with, "If the light casts no shadow, am I still real?" You step away from the rails. You've seen no trains, but your ears ache from the silence they should have filled. You imagine the thunder of wheels and steel, the churn of pistons, the soot on your collar. But none of it comes. Instead, you see movement in the fog. 3 men, you think. They glide past, not quite walking, just shapes, the suggestion of hats and coats. No footsteps, no voices. You call out, but they don't pause. You hurry toward them, and as you do, you realize their coats are too long, their faces somehow blank. Maybe your eyes are lying. When you get there, there's no one, just a trail in the gravel, straight lines as though dragged. You laugh nervously. Another trick. The fog is good at that. You reach for your pocket watch. It's ticking, but the hands are moving slow, almost stuttering. You shake it. It stops completely. Of course it does. Quirk of the day. In parts of Iowa, watchmakers offered free inspections for fog-damaged timepieces. Most reported nothing mechanical, yet dozens of watches stopped during the fog refused to work again despite repairs. One family even buried theirs in the garden so the bad time wouldn't come back. No one really knew what to believe. Back. In 1913, people trusted railroads to define time itself, literally. Railroad standard time governed the schedules, the bells, the heartbeat of daily life. But that day, the trains went blind and time lost its grip. You hear another whistle, softer this time, lower, but no vibration follows. Just a kind of waiting. You sit back down on the gravel and run your hands through the dust. It's still warm from yesterday's sun. You feel grounded for a moment, real, present. Then you notice your hand again. No shadow, just pale skin floating in grey. You wave your fingers. Nothing moves on the ground. You turn in place, trying to catch an angle where your body will block. The light from your lantern, but the light seems to diffuse through you. You're not invisible. But your outline isn't sharp. You look smeared. This is the part of the story where skeptics start waving red flags. They'll tell you it was just fog plus fatigue, maybe combined with early spring allergies. But people from that day wrote things they didn't tell their neighbors. Whole families refused to speak of what they saw until years later. In journals and letters they used odd words: scrambled air, paper sky, the soundless hour. Some even noted that their pets avoided looking at them. One man claimed his horse wouldn't meet his eyes until the fog lifted. There's a moment, here on the tracks, where the world feels thinner. Like if you pushed hard enough, you could step into something else. Not a different place, necessarily. Just a different version of this one, and then like that, the sound returns. Faint at first. Metal on metal, a chug, a rhythm, the train's finally coming. You leap back, instinctively, scrambling to clear the tracks, but no lights cut through the fog, no shadow looms. You hear the roar pass through you, not past, through. Your hat flutters. A breeze picks up. You smell coal and heat, but there's nothing. No train, no dust, only tracks beneath your feet. And the distant sound of nothing. You wipe your face. It's damp, not from sweat, but from dew the fog leaves behind. You blink a few times and realize your boots are now clean. The mud has been scrubbed off. You didn't do that. The whistle sounds again, this time from behind. You don't turn, you just keep walking forward toward wherever the world still makes sense. The town clock that ticked backward. You follow a familiar bend in the road, or at least what feels familiar, until you see it through the haze, the outline of the courthouse tower. Faint, grey, but there. A point of reference, a promise of normalcy, but as you move closer, you notice something strange. The clock tower isn't just still shrouded in fog, it's moving. No, not the building. The clock hands, ticking, backward, slow, deliberate. A heavy tock every 10 seconds, each one echoing in the damp air like a dropped stone. You stare up at it, eyes wide. The minute hand slips from 9 to 8, and then, again, you watch 5 minutes. Disappear in under a minute. The tower bell chimes softly, but out of sync, like it's trying to remember a rhythm it never learned. Locals will swear for years after that they saw the same thing. Some said the clock ran backward for only 10 minutes. Others said it continued until nightfall. And a few, always in whispers, claimed it still runs in reverse, but only during fog. You reach the courthouse steps, slick with dew. The building looms, its brickwork glistening like wet ink, its windows blank. No lights, no voices. You push open the door and step inside. It's warmer. In here, stale but not unpleasant, like paper and leather and old soap. The air is still. The world outside fades to a pale blur beyond the window panes. You wander the corridor. It smells like your grandmother's attic. Dust and dried flowers and that soft crinkle of time, long kept. You trail your fingers along the railings and glance at the portraits of former judges. Most stare ahead solemnly, eyes fixed on forever. But one seems to be looking just to the left, at you. You take a step closer. The eyes don't move. Of course not. But now you're not sure where the light in the hallway is coming from. There are no lamps lit, no windows open. Yet your shadow, yes, it's returned, is cast in the wrong direction. You turn around, still backward, like the sun is behind you and in front of you at the same time. Here's a detail you might enjoy. According to archived town records, 5 public clocks stopped that morning across different cities in Ohio. But only the courthouse in Hamilton reported its clock reversing time for a quarter of an hour. A local watchmaker tried to replicate the phenomenon and failed. But he later discovered his own heartbeat had slowed during the fog, recorded in his pocket journal. Fewer beats per minute than usual, felt like dreaming while awake. Had to slap myself 3 times to stay real. Scientists blame barometric pressure for symptoms like these. The brain, they say, doesn't like low oxygen levels. But that doesn't explain why a woman in Missouri wrote an identical note, same phrasing, same heartbeat detail, despite being 500 miles away and never having read his diary. Coincidence or something deeper? You find yourself in the courtroom. The wooden benches curve like ribs around the empty chamber. The judge's seat is bare. Dust motes float like tiny jellyfish in the fog-dimmed light. A strange sound fills the room, like whispering, not sinister. More like pages being turned in another room. You follow the noise and reach the clerk's desk. Open ledger. Quill still, wet. No one around, and then you see it. Today's date, but yesterday's entries, filed in reverse order. Case number 1744, listed after Ziku 1745. Signatures at the bottom drifting upward on the page. You blink. When you look again, it's back to normal. Or maybe you're just tired. Time is strange here. You hear a giggle from the hallway. Childlike. A boy, maybe. You step out. Heart quickening. But the sound comes from behind you now. You spin. Nothing, except the faint imprint of wet footsteps on the wood. Bare feet. Walking toward the courtroom. You turn back and follow, slowly, carefully. Your boots squeak. The boy's prints do not. Here's where scholars start arguing again. Some say the backward clock was never real, just a mechanical glitch made worse by nerves. Others, especially folklorists, point to a broader pattern. Dozens of communities across the Midwest reported retro-causality events, strange dreams of yesterday, meals eaten twice, or people greeting friends they hadn't seen yet. In Louisville, one boy asked his mother why the sun was sucking light instead of giving it. The phrase later appeared in a university's psychology paper titled Temporal Distortion in Shared Weather Events. You step outside again. The clock is still ticking. Still backward. The fog swirls once, and for a moment it seems to form shapes, faces, maybe. You rub your eyes, they dissolve, you're alone again. Or maybe you always were. You check your pocket watch, it's missing. No, not missing, reversed. The numbers are backward, like a mirror. The hands spinning counterclockwise with a sound like a child winding a toy. You smile, a tired one. The fog hums, and the courthouse behind you exhales like it was holding its breath. The lantern keeper beneath the lake. You follow a gravel road past the courthouse until it dissolves into a woodland path, soft earth, damp underfoot, littered with branches that glisten with fog-kissed moss. The forest is silent, even the birds are quiet now. Your breath fogs as you move, but the mist here doesn't feel heavy. It's almost protective, like it's wrapped itself around you with careful intention. Eventually the trees thin and you reach the edge of a lake. You don't remember there being a lake here, but it stretches out before you now, perfectly still, like a sheet of hammered glass. No ripples, no ducks, no breeze to disturb it. You step closer, feeling the cool dampness soak through your boots. And then you see the light. Faint, golden, flickering deep beneath the surface. You squint, there, far below. A lantern held by someone walking slowly across the lake bed. You know, you shouldn't be able to see so far down, not through this fog, not with this clarity. And yet there he is, a man in oilskin, wide-brimmed hat dripping with water, walking with impossible calm. His boots stir no silt. His coat floats gently behind him. He holds the lantern out before him, as if lighting the path for someone who is not there yet. For a moment, you believe he sees you, but he doesn't look up, just walks deeper until he disappears behind a cloud of underwater mist. Obscure detail time. During the fog of 1913, a local fisherman named Samuel Eckhart reported to police in southern Illinois that he saw a man under the water walking west holding a lantern. They laughed him off, until 3 other fishermen came forward describing the same vision over the span of 3 days. Eckhart's boat never returned to shore the following week. They found it adrift, his pipe still warm, a lantern swinging from the oarlock. The flame was burning, but no fuel remained. You kneel beside the lake, staring down. Your reflection doesn't match your movements. You raise your hand, the image lags, then waves with the opposite arm. You blink, your reflection doesn't. A subtle panic grips your chest, but you keep breathing. 1, 2, 3. Historians, generally, write off Eckhart's account as hysteria, a result of hypoxia or psychological stress. But his wife's journal tells another story. She wrote, "The lantern he carried was not his own. It belonged to his grandfather, lost in the flood of '94. I saw it glowing at the base of my garden 3 days after he vanished." She later buried the garden in salt and refused to plant again. You break your gaze from the lake. A log rests nearby, half submerged in soft mud. You sit, boots sinking slightly, and let your ears adjust. The fog is quieter here, more thoughtful. You hear something strange, a metallic click, rhythmic, repeating every few seconds. A pocket watch? A bell? No, a ticking. Dull, mechanical. You follow it around the shore to a wooden post sticking out of the water. Tied to it, a rusted bell, no clapper. Yet it ticks. Slowly. You reach out to touch it, but the fog thickens, pushing your hand back with a sudden chill. You withdraw instinctively, fingers tingling as though burned by frost. Then the lantern appears again, closer this time. Still underwater, the man seems to be moving toward the shallows. Toward you. You step back, not in fear but awe. There's something sacred about him. His movements, though unnatural, are tender, purposeful, as if he's performing an ancient rite passed down in whispers. He holds the lantern higher, and for a second the surface of the lake glows with shimmering symbols, like writing burned into the water. You don't recognize the letters, but they feel familiar. You blink, and they vanish, a local myth from the ashore. Time speaks of a lake keeper who wanders beneath inland waters during fog, searching for lost time. According to oral accounts collected in 1940, he carries light for souls who are not yet drowned, but not yet saved. His presence is never harmful, but always followed by confusion, dreams of clocks, and sometimes forgetfulness. You shiver. And then, just as quickly, the man under the lake stops. He turns, he holds the lantern out, not down, but up, as though offering it to you through the water. You can't explain what happens next. There's no splash, no movement, but in your hand, where there was nothing a moment ago, there is now warmth, a metal handle, an oil lantern, its glass fogged from within, burning softly. You stare at it, not sure how it came to be. There's a hum in your ears. The lake no longer reflects you. It reflects only the lantern in your hand, hovering in black water like a second sun. You try to speak, but your throat is dry, and then, as if satisfied, The man beneath the lake turns away, walks and fades into nothing. You stand there holding the impossible and remember something from years ago. Your grandmother once told you that if you ever got lost in fog, all you needed was a true light and a quiet heart. You never knew what that meant until now. A fun aside, several families in Indiana and western Pennsylvania reported their children bringing home lights during the fog, makeshift lanterns or candles that couldn't be blown out, even under water or in wind. One boy kept his under his bed for years. It stopped glowing the day he turned 13. You breathe deeply. The lake remains silent behind you. The path ahead is barely visible, but it's there, and now you have a lantern. You walk forward. The fog parts slightly. The library. With no door, you follow a narrow dirt path illuminated by the lantern's flickering glow. The fog here is different, thinner, whispering around your legs like lace being dragged across a wooden floor. The trees begin to open into what feels like a courtyard. You pause. Something's off. Then you see it. A building stands in the middle of the clearing, square and severe, dark stone. No windows, no obvious entry. Its walls stretch 2 stories high, capped with a slanted slate roof, streaked with silver lichen. It's utterly silent. Not a bird, not a breeze, not even your own footsteps make a sound now. The lantern glows slightly brighter, almost urging you forward. You circle the structure, and despite the lack of doors or windows, you know this is a library. You can feel it. The air smells of parchment and dust and ink-stained fingertips. There's a pressure, a density to the silence, like every book. Inside is still listening. Then you hear it. A cough. Soft, human, from inside. You place a hand against the stone wall. Cold. It vibrates faintly, like something breathing on the other side. A breeze picks up. Your lantern flickers once, then flares. Suddenly, you see the faint outline of a door that wasn't there before. It isn't built into the wall, it's drawn. A perfect charcoal sketch of a doorway. And as you watch the lines smear and shimmer, the door becomes real. You hesitate only a second before pushing it open. Inside it's warmer. The air tastes like cloves and leather. Shelves rise high around you, impossibly tall, stacked with books of every size and color. No lamps, yet everything glows gently, as if the shelves themselves are lit from within. You take a step. The floor doesn't creak. Another. A voice greets you. You're late. You turn. There, behind a counter of stacked atlases and curled parchment maps, sits an elderly woman with half-moon spectacles and a shawl the color of midnight. She doesn't look up. Just stamps something on a card and slips it into a drawer. No appointments today, she murmurs. Not unless you're returning. You manage a quiet, returning what? She finally looks at you. Time, she says. You borrowed some, didn't you? You don't answer, because somehow she's right. Mainstream historical detail. In 1913, reports from central Ohio and eastern Kentucky mentioned pop-up buildings, barns, sheds, even full houses, seen in the fog that weren't there before and vanished after. A professor from the University of Cincinnati called it mass pareidolia, or the brain seeing patterns where none exist. Yet a team of surveyors claimed to have mapped one such house, only to return the next day to an empty field. Their notes, archived in 1951, refer to a square stone library without windows. Sound familiar? The woman stands and gestures to a small reading table. A book lies open there already. You walk over. The title reads, Journal of things that might still happen. The pages are blank. As you reach down to turn one, words begin to fade into view. They describe you, walking this path, entering this library, turning this page. You snap the book shut. The fog outside presses closer against the windows that weren't there when you came in. The librarian smiles. Don't
worry, nothing here is written in ink, only breath.
Obscure tidbit. A man named Elias Browning swore under oath in 1913 that he entered a library during the fog, read the date of his own death, and lived precisely 27 more years. When his family finally read his will, he'd written the exact date of his passing decades before, sealed in a library card envelope. You glance around. Each book has no title on its spine, only symbols, constellations, weather marks, the curl of a cat's tail. You pick one up. Inside, a single recipe for honey cake, written backward. Another contains a lullaby in a language that hums in your bones. The librarian clears her throat. You're not supposed to read too much, she says, suddenly stern. We're still cataloguing the dreams. You ask her whose dreams. She doesn't answer. Instead, she walks to the rear of the library and pulls down a thick green book. Inside, a map, a labyrinth of fog, lakes, roads, and yes, this building, drawn exactly as it appears. There, she says, pointing to a flickering part of the map. You're headed next to the orchard. You thank her, but before you leave, she offers one final warning. Don't follow the chimes. You blink. What chimes? She frowns. You'll know. Then she returns to her desk. You step outside again. The library behind you is now just a square of stone in the fog. No door, no windows, just memory, and the faint smell of old books clinging to your coat like a secret. You walk with the lantern held low, its light catching the dew-soaked ground and shimmering off the creeping mist. The forest thins again, and the air changes. It carries the faintest scent of apples and cinnamon, earthy, sweet, faintly metallic. Ahead, trees emerge from the fog, not the tall, sprawling kind, but old, knotted fruit trees with gnarled branches like arthritic fingers. An orchard, you step into it, each tree is twisted, leaning slightly as though bowing towards some silent, shared secret. The fruit glows faintly, not with any inner light, but as if the fog itself is enchanted with memory. You pause beneath a particularly bent tree, an apple dangling just above your eye line. You pluck it. It's warm. Not room temperature warm, handheld warmth.
Like it's just been passed to you by someone unseen. You don't eat it. Something tells you that's not the point. A rustle to your left. You turn. No one, but you hear something. A whisper, then another. Dozens now, softly brushing the inside of your ears like falling feathers.
You spin slowly in place. The orchard is alive with voices, not loud, not clear. Just syllables floating in and out of cohesion. Like dreams retold by the trees. A gust of wind stirs the branches, and suddenly the whispers unify into a single word, stay. You blink. The word melts away again into static hush. Mainstream history. Here's the twist. In 1913, an abandoned orchard near Middletown, Pennsylvania, became the epicenter of several missing persons reports. Locals blamed it on drunken wanderers, but a regional paper at the time noted something stranger. All the disappearances occurred during still wind and thick fog at the edge of the Pearly Row orchard, which hadn't borne fruit in over a decade. Yet fruit was always found in the pockets of those who vanished. Obscure tidbit, the orchard soil tested unusually high for iron. In the 1980s, Researchers discovered a buried iron bell under the northern edge, identical to those used in 18th century death rituals to ward off spirits. You keep walking, the apple's still in your hand. You notice now that the trees seem to shift behind you. Each time you glance over your shoulder, their arrangement changes subtly, branches pointing where they hadn't before, trunks leaning further, apples clustered in different patterns. Like the orchard is gently reorganizing. Then you hear the first chime. Delicate, silver. Just once. Then silence. You remember the librarian's warning. Don't follow the chimes. Another bell rings closer. You turn away from it, continuing your slow path forward, but it rings again, this time from your right, then your left, like something is circling you, herding you. You walk faster. The orchard thickens, branches clawing down lower, and the fog grows denser. Now the chimes come not singly, but in pairs, triplets, a maddening pattern of bright, crystalline sound that begins to feel like laughter. You run your hand along the nearest tree for grounding. Its bark peels under your palm, revealing carved names beneath the moss. Hundreds of names etched deep in careful cursive. You find yours exactly.
How you sign it, above it, one name you've never heard, Caroline Noakes.
Underneath, the date, November 22nd, 1913. You say it aloud and everything goes silent. Even the fog holds its breath. Suddenly the air ahead opens into a clearing. In the center stands a girl, maybe 12, wearing a threadbare navy dress and muddy stockings. Her hair is in 2 long braids. She's barefoot, holding a bell by its leather loop. The clapper is missing. She stares at you, unblinking. "Do you have the apple?" she asks. You nod. "Then you can pass." She steps aside. You ask who she is. "I ring the names that forget themselves," she says. Historians argue whether the Pearly Row Orchard ever actually existed. It doesn't appear on any official map post-1914, but old property records show a Noakes family farm that was condemned in 1915. Noakes's only child, Caroline, was reported missing 2 years before. Her body was never found, but her bell turned up in a box of fog-warped relics discovered during a 1960s historical dig. The bell is now in a private collection. Caroline smiles faintly. "You'll want to go before the branches remember you." You don't ask what that means. You just go. As you leave the clearing, you look down. The apple in your hand has changed. It's now black. Heavy, like obsidian, smooth and cold. You place it on the ground, gently, almost reverently, beneath the oldest tree in the orchard. The whispers stop. For now. You pass the final row of trees and feel the fog part like a curtain behind you. The air ahead is somehow lighter, but you don't. Forget the orchard, because in some ways it hasn't forgotten you. You follow the thinning fog into a patch of crooked fence posts and flattened grass. Ahead, 2 narrow dirt paths intersect in the shape of a weathered X, barely visible through the swirling mist. A wooden sign leans at the junction, its paint worn away, its arrow pointing in both directions at once. There's no clear choice. You pause, letting the lantern's glow drift across the path. The ground at this crossroads feels different, taut, like a drumskin stretched too tight. Even your breath makes the silence seem louder. Then from the shadows at the edge of the road, a figure emerges. He stands beneath a withered tree, tall and impossibly still. A wide-brimmed hat shades his eyes, and his coat flutters slightly in wind you can't feel. His boots are polished. His gloved hands rest neatly atop a cane, Everything about him suggests he's been waiting, not minutes, not hours, but centuries. He tilts his head. Evening, he says. His voice is smooth, calm, the kind that would sound just as at home behind a preacher's pulpit as it would
inside a poker hall at midnight. Careful now, he adds. This place likes decisions, and it don't care much how you choose, just that you do. You don't reply. He grins. Ain't polite to stare. But I get it. Most folks don't expect
me to be so. He gestures vaguely at himself. Presentable. He motions to the crossroads behind him. Left path leads where the fog forgets. Right one goes where it remembers. You ask which is safer. Depends what you've done, he says. Mainstream history backs you here, in parts of rural Pennsylvania. And West Virginia, there were dozens of reports in 1913 of the Crossroads Man, a tall figure who appeared during heavy fog and offered cryptic directions. Some said he was a lost soldier, others a ghost of the Underground Railroad. But the most persistent legend claims he's a forgotten decision, given form. Obscure tidbit, one diary entry from a postmistress in 1913 mentions a man at the fog line fork who spoke in threes and vanished when I blinked. She included a sketch. The hat, the cane, it matches what you're seeing now. That diary is kept today in a sealed archive in Wheeling, West Virginia. The man begins to pace slowly around you. I don't offer maps, he says. Just moments. You can sit here and stall until morning, but dawn's a myth in this place. He taps his cane against the dirt. So. You glance down each path. The left is slightly lighter, lined with broken wheel tracks that end abruptly. The right is darker, but you smell wood smoke and hear faint music, a fiddle maybe, a song so distant it could be imagined. You ask what happens if you go backward. He laughs. The kind of laugh that makes your bones itch. No one goes back, he says, not unless they know the price, and most folks wouldn't like it. You ask what the price is. He leans in. A memory, he whispers, one that matters. You don't ask what he means. You already know, that summer night, that porch swing. The warm weight of a dog curled at your feet. The one moment you've kept folded like a secret in your mind for years. He'd take it. You wouldn't get it back. Historians still argue whether these crossroads legends stem from a psychological phenomenon or shared cultural memory, possibly tied to older European folk beliefs in liminal spaces where reality thins. What's most fascinating is how many independent accounts from 1913 mention the man in the hat, using the exact same phrasing. Fog forgets, fog remembers. You look up, he's gone. No sound, no farewell, just an empty spot beneath the tree. You're alone again. The air feels expectant. You take the right path, the one that remembers. The fiddle song grows louder as you walk, until it weaves itself into the fog around you. Your lantern dims slightly, not from weakness, but deference, as though light knows it's not in charge here. Around a bend, you see a small bridge arching over a dry creek bed. On the far side, a doorframe, just the frame. Standing on its own, you
pass through it without thinking. The mist behind you doesn't follow. You have made a choice.
You come to a hill, low and round like the curve of a sleeping shoulder. Climbing it feels easier than it should, like something wants you to reach the top. The fog parts gently for you now, curling back like stage curtains, revealing the long view below. You're above it all. The valley is blanketed in mist, thick and alive, threading through trees and over rooftops, swallowing barns and railway lines. There's no sound, just breath, your breath, and then the lights begin to return. Tiny flickers in the sea of white. Porch lamps, gas lanterns. Faint glows from windows that shouldn't still be standing. The past lighting itself one memory at a time. You kneel, the lantern. You've carried this whole way dims without going out, as if acknowledging that its work is nearly done. You place it at your feet. Its glow pulses once, then steadies. Somewhere behind you, you hear a shuffle of footsteps. Not threatening, not
Lost, just
late, you turn. The librarian from the beginning stands there, this time without her spectacles, her coat replaced by a shawl that drips with condensation. Most don't make it this far, she says. Most choose the orchard, or the names, or the clock tower. You ask her what this place is. She looks out over the valley and replies, a memory that never stopped wanting to be remembered. Then she smiles, gently, like someone who knows something you once forgot. Mainstream historical detail. During the winter of 1913, train operators across the Northeast reported massive delays not due to snow, but due to sightline disruption. Reports list visibility 0 in locations where fog was never recorded before or after. Several conductors described a sudden weight on their chests, like nostalgia becoming physical. Obscure tidbit: a single photograph survives from that week. Taken on a glass plate, it shows a woman on a hill overlooking a fog-wrapped valley.
a lantern glowing at her feet. No one has identified her. The location doesn't appear on any map. You ask the librarian if she's leaving too. She shakes her head. Someone must remember this place.
Or it'll start calling again. Historians still debate the fog of 1913. Was it meteorological, psychological, mass hysteria brought on by a convergence of global anxiety and pre-war tension? But those who've studied the reports always notice the same thing. Not one witness from 1913 described the fog as frightening, only familiar. You look out one more time, and then finally you turn to go. You descend the hill in silence. Each step brings color back to the world. Blues become bolder. Shadows soften. Sounds return slowly. Crickets. The creak of an old windmill. Your own heartbeat, steady and sure. At the base of the hill, a wooden door stands on its own. No frame.
No hinges, just a door. You knock once and it opens to light. Warm, golden, and full of the scent of books and bread. You step through and the fog lets go. And now
You're back. The air is still. The kind of stillness that only follows a long journey. You feel it in your shoulders, the ease. The soft weight of having carried something strange and heavy. And now, setting it down. You made it through the orchard, past the clock tower, beyond the crossroads. You remembered what was meant to be forgotten, and the fog, it didn't follow you, but some part of it remains. A scent, a hum, a knowing in your bones that time doesn't always move forward in a straight line. Sometimes it loops, pauses, lingers in doorways and waits for us to notice it. Tonight you did. So rest now, or let the quiet fold over you like the fog once did. Not to smother, but to soothe, to remind you that mystery isn't always meant to be solved, only experienced. Felt. Your breath deepens. Your thoughts slow. And in the distance, the lantern you left behind still glows. A tiny dot of memory in the dark. Safe. Steady. Waiting until you return. Sleep well, traveler. you've earned.
it.